You were in love once upon a time. Choose peace, not war, for a happier ever after. A Healthy Divorce Workbook by Cindy Battino with Lauren R. Giannini. Enter a new kind of self-help book for mind, body, and divorce. Cindy discusses finance, children, attorney, sex, you name it. The goal is to help people go through an often damaging and painful process by taking on as little damage and baggage as possible. To get your copy today, go to transform-heal.com/divorce workbook.
Savvy Central Radio, drawing out the best from our guests with host Christina Nitchman.
Hello everyone, and welcome to Savvy Central Radio. This is your host, Christina Nitchman. Each week on Savvy, we host successful individuals and business owners, inviting them to share their dreams, stories, wisdom, and lessons learned in their field of business. Our guest today is Keri Nola, an intuitive psychotherapist, best-selling author, and conscious business coach for lightworkers. While building and maintaining a thriving clinical practice for nearly a decade, Keri has now expanded her passion for the healing arts by creating a virtual coaching academy to support spiritual entrepreneurs in awakening their gift to share their products and services with the world. Today, Keri joins me to discuss how to attract fully invested clients into your business. To find out more about Keri, visit her website at KeriNola, KeriNola.com. Hi, Keri. Welcome to Savvy Central Radio. How are you?
Hey, Christina. I'm doing really well. Thanks so much for having me today.
Well, you're welcome. I'm glad you could come on out because most of our audience are coaches, and you help coaches out there. You are an intuitive psychotherapist, best-selling author, and conscious business coach for lightworkers. And a lot of people are coming out, living bigger and being the light for the world, and so they can live in a bigger way so others can live in a bigger way. How did this all come about for you, becoming a psychotherapist and moving into helping coaches live bigger and help more people?
Absolutely. For me, ever since I was a little girl, when people would ask me what I wanted to be when I grew up, I would always say I wanted to help people. And I never knew exactly how that would manifest or what it would look like in form once I arrived there. But over time, I debated between maybe I'll be a teacher, maybe I'll be a counselor, and being a therapist just always really felt good in my heart and soul. And so I got my undergrad in psychology and communication and went right into graduate school in therapy, and I just felt at home. And over the last decade or so, I've just been journeying with clients who are allowing me to hold sacred space for their healing journeys. And it's been such a blessing for me to just be a witness to that process of growth. And what I quickly found in building my own practice was that other healers needed help doing the same thing. And there were amazing coaches and therapists and massage therapists and all different realms of helping professionals who knew how to do their craft, but they didn't know how to formulate that into a business model that would actually allow them to make a living doing the work that they loved. And so that's where the expansion of my clinical practice moved into supporting other healing entrepreneurs in being able to bring their gifts to life in a way that was both abundant and satisfying at the same time.
I love that. And we talked before our interview about something we've both noticed in the coaching world, and that is often coaches are not congruent in their business with who they really are and with their greatest talents and wisdom in the world. Why is that, and how do you help them with that?
Yeah, I know for myself, I thought I was being congruent, but one of the things that I notice happening is that our practices always mirror back to us unhealed aspects of ourselves. And so if our practice isn't fulfilling, or if we're not drawing the clients that we want to be working with, or maybe if our phone isn't ringing or those inquiries for new business aren't coming in, it's always an opportunity to say, where am I in hiding? Where am I not allowing the truest essence of who I am to be seen? Because that is why our clients can't find us. If we're in hiding with any aspect of ourselves or what we have to offer, it makes it really difficult for the people who are looking for what we have to find us. And I think this shows up in a couple of ways. One place of incongruence that I see often with coaches and healers is that they want their clients to be willing to show up to do their healing work, but they're not engaged in a process of self-exploration or healing. Or maybe it's like, I went to therapy or I had a coach, 5, 10 years ago, but I finished with that already. I did my work. And so I find that if we're not in a constant state of engagement with our own healing journeys, it makes it really difficult to align with clients who want what we have, because that is an incongruence. How can we ask someone else to do something that we aren't willing to be engaged in ourselves?
I love that, Keri. I had one of my absolute favorite doctor practitioners as a kid was a doctor who, a general GP, who always went to lectures and studied medical journals. He loved to learn. And he said what was very disheartening to him is seeing that other doctors would finish with med school and not spend a lot of time doing further research and further study because they felt, well, I did the medical school thing. That was like forever. I'm done with that. And really, it's just the beginning. It's a lifelong learning process, and he loved it. And the same thing goes with, as you say, the coaching, or if you're a coach or whatever you do in business, the training and the learning just never end.
Absolutely. And I think if we want to draw the kinds of clients who are truly invested in transformation and change, then we have to be that client. And it's amazing how our practices just mirror that over and over again. And it's really vulnerable to be a client, to ask for help, to reach out. And so it's important for me to stay in that space of vulnerability in my own growth. That way I can relate to my clients and also make sure that I'm not standing on the outskirts like a voyeur looking into their process, but I'm really co-creating a healing experience with them because I'm engaged in my own at the same time. And then the other miraculous thing that I've seen happen here is then our clients never outgrow us because we're growing too. But I find there's a lot of transition and kind of coming and going of clients, if you will, when we're not engaged in our own healing because they outgrow us and they need us to be able to deepen with them along the process.
Yeah. And I'm sure for some coaches, there might come a time where you don't mesh anymore. They've grown in a different direction. And that's another case altogether. But it was interesting what you said about coaches not being willing to give, but wanting their clients to give even though they're not willing to put in the work or the effort. And it was interesting because I noticed early on I had a bunch of coaches. In particular, my show kind of draws in a lot of coaches, and a lot of them at the first, and understandably so, would reach out to me for advertising and say, hey, well, I want to do some advertising. And I would say, well, here's our costs and whatever. And they're like, oh, no, I was looking to do it for free. And I'm like, well, is your coaching service for free? Well, that's different. I don't pay for marketing and that sort of thing. I'm like, so I thought that was interesting because that's not really congruent as being a business owner or a coach. Because if you're in the business to coach and charge $10,000, $5,000, or whatever you might charge as a coach, you can't expect that other business owners, whomever they might be, to not charge for their own worth.
Exactly. It's so true. We have to be willing to rise to the occasion of our own abundance, our own worthiness, and then we'll draw clients who are willing to do the very same thing. Anytime I start getting calls or inquiries of people that are looking for things on sale or on clearance, or they want me to, I'm like, okay, Keri, where have you been budget, shopping for your own things? And it's important to be financially aware and to not do things beyond our means. And there's a difference between mindfulness around finances and fear. Sabotaging ourselves. Fear. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. And I can totally relate. The first time I hired a coach, it was scary as all heck because it wasn't cheap and it was a big investment, and I just kept going back and forth. Is this a good idea? Am I making a mistake? And here's the interesting thing is that I told her I'm going to wait and think on it for 2 weeks before I give it to you. Well, for those 2 weeks I was so fearful I started taking bits of it out without thinking and buying crap. And I thought to myself, I think 2 weeks in, what am I doing? I just spent $300 on crap because I'm scared to make a choice that will be an investment for me that'll help me grow and move forward in my business and in my life, cut this out. So I gave her a call and said, hey, I'm going to give you all the money except for the $300. Can I pay you that at the end of the month and we'll get started? And she's like, we'll get started today. Just give me everything but the $300. You can pay that at the end of the month and we're good to go. And then became our journey that changed my life and eventually got me to discover my passion and purpose through Savvy Central Radio. So it goes to show you that what you're talking about, the fear and the self-sabotage, is really dangerous slope.
Absolutely. And I think mindfulness around that. And it's interesting because I think in a lot of the entrepreneur world, there's this energy of avoiding fear, getting rid of fear, cutting fear off, screw fear, all of this. And to me, that's never truly resonated because fear is a natural and important aspect of our human journey. I believe that we're spiritual beings having a physical experience, and fear is part of that. So how can we dance with our fear, build a loving relationship with our fear where it's not driving the bus of our business off course, but we're using it as a barometer. I mean, for me, if I'm not scared in my business more times than not, I'm really playing it way too safe because the reality is it is scary to be an entrepreneur and to be the fullness of who we are in the world doing our work. And if we're not afraid, maybe we're so deep inside of our comfort zone that we're really not using our gifts to the fullest potential.
That's a really good point. And you mentioned something before that stuck out for me, and that was that many times coaches will be not living their fullest because I think they're scared that people will see that they don't know all their stuff. Their crap isn't all together yet.
Yes.
And that is a scary thing because, it doesn't have to be all together. I think a lot of times people wait until, okay, everything looks okay. Or the other thing I see is coaches will, pretend in public everything is grand okay, everything's perfect, but really everything's falling apart around them, and they don't want to admit it. And I think that's one of the things hurting the community most is I think we could help each other more if people were to step up and say, you know what, things are not going well right now, I'm suffering in some places, not to complain about it, but just to maybe be more truthful about the real issues going on so that we could all help each other as a community.
Yes, I mean, the word transparency comes up for me around that. And I think there's a difference between letting our stuff all hang out there and not owning it or not having any boundaries in our professional life. But there's also the art of transparency and being honest that, I'm having a rough time and here are the tools that I'm using to honor and to move through that. And it was interesting. One of the saddest moments of my career was when a client said, I want to be more like you. And I said, what does that mean? And she's like, well, you're so calm and you're so at peace and you're so together. It's like you're perfect. And I thought, like, one part of me, the perfectionist part, was like, okay, good. I've worn this mask and this costume really, really well. And the other part of me was like, wow, I have been hiding so deeply that my humanness has gotten lost in this relationship with this other soul that's having a really challenging time with things that, quite honestly, I'm journeying with too. And it wasn't about making it about me in the session, but it was about how can I bring more of my realness so that we're not creating these power differentials in our relationships with our clients, but we're partnering with and we're saying, yeah, I've been here. And oftentimes those of us that have experienced things in our lives, that's what allows us to relate to our clients and to support them. And I think finding that balance of how we can do that in a really authentic way is really what it's the art of doing our work in the world.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. It's interesting, Keri, because early on when I first started my first business, a financial consulting business, I had started a blog back in corporate called 101 Mistakes and What I Learned. Now that whole idea of writing that blog is coming into a book. But what was interesting when I first wrote it, a lot of my compadres and ex-coworkers and family and friends were like, are you crazy? Everyone's going to see your crap. Everyone's going to see how messed up you are. They'll never want to work with you. And the interesting thing was I found it was the opposite. That's what drew people to me because they could relate. They could see that I was real and that I also have issues like they do.
Yes. Oh, that's so true. Putting our mistakes out there is like one of the biggest vulnerabilities and allowing other people to know. And when I think about the people that I look to or am inspired by, they're not people that are doing it perfect. Actually, those spiritual teachers or mentors that gurus, if you will, that seem like they have it all together or they have it all figured out, I don't find myself relating to that because that's not me. Yes, I'm a spiritual teacher. Yes, I am working in a healing role, but that I'm also still having a human experience. And I think that's been really important for me. And it's something I can really easily hide behind. And I think it's an important question that we ask ourselves. How am I hiding behind my title, my role, my work? And how can I kind of integrate more of my authentic reality with that work?
Mm. And I know we also talked in our primary first conversation together about noticing that many coaches don't fully use their talent and gifts in the world. They kind of hold back, and we discussed some of the reasons why this might happen. What have you seen in your practice with this?
To me, I think it really, at the core, is about fear. And I think the only problem that is on the planet that is manifesting itself in a lot of different symptoms is that we have forgotten the truth of who we are and our divine birthright to experience abundance and health and love and peace and joy. And I think it can be really scary to show somebody who we are, oftentimes because that hasn't been accepted at other parts of our life. You know, as children, we often have really well-meaning parents, and with their own unhealed wounds, they don't often know how to embrace the wholeness of who we are. So maybe we have put our heart and soul into drawing a picture and we bring it home from school and we want it to be celebrated, and it's sort of brushed off or it's not responded to with the excitement or care and attention that we were hoping for. And, you know, as children, we're great observers, but we're terrible interpreters. And so we think that that means something about us, that, oh, I put everything I was into this and now it wasn't validated or well received. And enough of those times we begin to create a box in our mind, in our energy field, called playing big is dangerous. Playing big doesn't allow me to receive love and belonging and connection and acceptance. So I'm going to dim my light. I'm going to dumb myself down, and I'm going to do, you know, half living. And in that space, it may feel safe to a part of us, but it really doesn't lend itself to long-term satisfaction in our life or in our work, because a part of us is being shoved in the closet.
Wow, that I see it in so many levels. A lot of my past coworkers and friends from corporate, I remember them. We're all sitting on Monday morning by the water cooler, all depressed as heck. Another Monday at this yucky place, and you know, you've seen it all around America. We're in these corporate jobs in cubes and really pretty unhappy a lot. And just feeling like, okay, let's just sit around here and complain about it. And interestingly, when I started to branch off and create my businesses, a lot of those friends fell by the wayside because they're like, we don't get you. Why aren't you sitting by the water cooler just complaining about life and everything like that? I'm like, well, why don't you see that there could be possibly options, that you could maybe do something you love? And it's sad that I think we all help keep each other in the whole, more or less. You know, even though we're not kids anymore, that playing small, we kind of all help contribute to stay in that spot because it feels comfortable. And you mentioned that before, that idea of not only playing small, but that comfortable, not getting outside your comfort zone. It's all good as long as you stay comfortable.
Yes, yes. And comfortable is one thing, but it's like, it's an illusion, right? Because it's never comfortable at the truth of who we are to not be the essence of ourselves. And so we create this illusion or this story. And I love what you said, that we almost collude with one another's victim mentalities. Yeah. I'm stuck. This is the only way. I can't get out of here. And that creates so much dis-ease. And we end up seeing that in our physical bodies. We see that in our emotions, in our relationships, and all of that manifests. And I think really as light workers, it's our job to bring light to our own patterns of lack and unworthiness, and be able to clear those and be in a conscious relationship with them so that we can help shine light on them for other people as well. Otherwise, we begin colluding with the victim mentality of our clients, and the work becomes very, very frustrating because there's no way out of that. It's just a never-ending cycle, or like a record that's stuck on that same loop. And we have to interrupt the pattern with truth and with light
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when I first left corporate and I started hanging out with some of my old coworkers, it was painful because the thing is, you're right, it doesn't feel good at all being there. You're in a box, you're trapped. And really, when you're in that space where you're all kind of keeping each other small, it doesn't feel good for anyone. And a good interesting thing about it is the last place I worked in corporate before I started my business, 4 people in my department were diagnosed with cancer in 1 year. So it goes to show, you were talking about the disease portion. Wow. And I don't think that was an accident.
Our body will, yeah, it will hold for us what we're not paying attention to. So whatever it needs to do to get our attention, it loves us that much. It will do it.
Yeah. And for everyone out there, there might even be some people who are not interested in starting their own business, but that doesn't mean you can't live your greatest gifts and talent in the world in some way that makes you shine and excited to get up in the morning.
Absolutely true. Yeah, that you can bring light to the world no matter what setting you're in. Yeah.
Yeah. So what is the grandest vision for your business in the coming months and in the year?
I love that question. I'm constantly visioning and getting clarity and setting intentions because I believe that I'm a co-creator and that we're all co-creators of what it is that we're calling into our reality. So what I am intending on birthing right now is really a global community of light workers who are ready to tune into their own obstacles and their own ability to create their businesses. And so that's going to look like continually growing my virtual coaching academy. And I also have a business partner where we travel the world and do live healing retreats with light workers, because I find too that coaches and therapists, we're so busy holding space for others, but who is there to hold space for us and for our continued depth and healing so that we can keep rising to the occasion of what we're on the planet to do? So that's definitely another phase. And just continuing to come out of hiding with my own abilities and why I'm here. There have been times when I've hidden behind the more traditional business building structure, but truly I'm here to shine light in the dark spaces. I'm here to use my intuition and my ability to download divine information to help others tune into the energy of their soul and what they're here to do. And so I'm committed to continuing to tell the truth to myself and then to my community about what I offer and what I can do, even though in the mainstream it may not be particularly acceptable, although I do believe it's becoming more and more the norm.
Yeah. It is. I have a very close friend who's a psychotherapist, and she said it's the weirdest thing. For years, she's also dabbled in energy healing and gone to get energy healing done and also learned to work with that as well. And she said at times I've incorporated it into my practice, but never told my patients because they'd be like, oh my gosh, you're not a psychotherapist anymore. You're crazy. So, but interestingly, she said, now I have lawyers coming to me and they're asking me to do these healing arts on them on purpose, like lawyers and Wall Street people I would have never thought who would be open to the idea of energy healing of any sort. And it's that there's a spiritual hunger, I think, and people just want to get deeper inside of themselves than ever before.
Yes, I think the consciousness on the planet is really rising. And that's why the work that so many of us do is so important. And the more of us that can come out of hiding and that can speak the truth as we see it and that can bring light to these issues and opportunities, I think it's going to make it more the norm. I find it so hilarious that we call these things new age when actually they're the oldest, most ancient forms of healing and truth and consciousness on the planet. So I think it's hilarious that we call that new just because we've forgotten it for a while. But I do think it's waking back up in our DNA and coming back online now more than ever.
Yeah, remembering it.
Yes. I know that to me, it's like, I don't believe we're really learning anything. I think we're just giving ourselves permission to remember what our soul has already known. And the more we surrender to that process, the easier I know life has been and is for me, and what I see in other people as I support their journeys as well. So we try to be so in control, and it's a constant journey for me of partnering with my recovering control freak aspect of myself and realizing that it's okay to not know and to allow it to organically unfold and reveal itself to us each step of the way.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. So everyone out there who wants to get in contact with you, sign up for your upcoming workshops, work with you, how can they do that?
Absolutely. My website is my hub for communication. I do blog videos each week for entrepreneurs, and I've got some freebies on there and also access to my Twitter and Facebook. So that's my name, KeriNola.com.
Awesome. And that's KeriNola.com, correct?
That's right.
So, well, before we head on out, are there any last words you'd like to leave with our audience?
Yes, I think it's, be the light that you are. And rather than wait for someone else to do it, there's a reason why the work that you have in your mind and your heart and the ideas that come to you when you're in the shower or walking or waking up in the middle of the night, they're there for a reason. And your role on bringing light to the planet right now is absolutely important and necessary. And it's time for us to step into that place. And I'm honored to be on that journey with you.
Absolutely. And it makes me so happy when I see those around me who at one point could not see an opening, could not see themselves living greater and grander self, to see them step up and use talents and gifts that they had never used in a way in the world. It's just awesome to see that. So I thank you so much, Keri, Nola, for doing the work you do. And thank you so much for coming on Savvy Central Radio and sharing your gifts and talents today.
You're so welcome, Christina. Thank you so much for having me, and best of luck with all the work you're doing as well.
Yes, thank you. Take care, girl.
You too. Bye-bye.
You were in love once upon a time. Choose peace, not war, for a happier ever after. A Healthy Divorce Workbook by Cindy Battino with Lauren R. Giannini. Enter a new kind of self-help book for mind, body, and divorce. Cindy discusses finance, children, attorney, sex, you name it. The goal is to help people go through an often damaging and painful process by taking on as little damage and baggage as possible. To get your copy today, go to transform-heal.com/divorce workbook. There's some exciting changes coming this 2015 for Savvy. We'll start videocasting some of our interviews. Also, stay tuned for a new book presently being worked on by my co-author and I, Karen Rowe. We'll talk about how to bridge the gap from worker bee to business owner, and the lessons we've learned on our journey to entrepreneurship. In addition, this spring we'll start live interview opportunities in Manhattan, which will later be aired on iHeartRadio, a new mix to business networking and interviews. For those interested in participating as a paid sponsor or interviewee, contact us at 718-713-2289 or savvycentralradio@gmail.com.